The F word, forgiveness, seems unthinkable to a lot of people.
An Israeli soldier shot my 10 years old daughter, and after 2 days in the Israeli hospital, she died.
David was shot by a sniper.
You can't be proud of what you are, you know, as a sniper. You're an assassin. You know.
Forgiveness doesn't mean it was permissible or justified.
The word forgiving is the most impossible word to define.
Everybody thinks we fall apart. Everybody's quick to point their fingers outward. They think it's causing the problem. What they don't see is what they won't see, my friend.
The F word is indicative that when we think F word, we think, okay, this must be a swear word. And I think for some people it is.
Last night's massacre at a church in Cape Town sent shockwaves through a South
For Letlapa, there was no reason to apply for amnesty or apologize for the attack.
The F word, forgiveness, means that you've come up to some point where you can acknowledge, you can accept the humanity of that person, and you can say, I'm not going to go on with the rest of my life hating
you. Is the act forgivable? Actually, the act is not forgivable. But to forgive the perpetrator, the person that did the act, I think that's possible. I know it's possible for me. My 23-year-old daughter, Julie, was killed in the bombing.
And we've all got to learn ourselves before we can judge someone else. And we've all got to learn ourselves before we can judge someone else.
We need a litter!
Iraq. 9/11. Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City, about 9 o'clock local time in Oklahoma. There are many casualties.
Israel.
המקום כיכר דיזנגוף בתל אביב.
Palestine. South Africa. Uganda. Northern Ireland. Places and moments that are seared in our memories. But beneath the noisy shock and awe of the headlines are the real people whose lives are touched, sometimes destroyed, certainly transformed by these events.
Everybody thinks we fall apart.
My brother worked in the World Trade Center up on the 104th floor of the South Tower. Was killed, was murdered. We have a death certificate from the city of New York that says cause of death, homicide, which is a reality of 9/11, I guess, that isn't focused on as much, you know, that it's an act of murder. I mean, it was a murder scene.
Everybody knows what they were doing on September 11th. I sat in front of the TV and watched the towers come down time and time again. You know, making up in my mind right then that I had to go. I had to join the military. And so I called a recruiter the next night and told him we needed to set up a meeting.
3 months after Nelson Mandela had been released from prison, I received in the post 2 religious magazines. When I opened them, they exploded. I lost both my hands. I lost an eye. My eardrums were shattered. I was burnt, but miraculously survived.
I remember when the war started in October, My initial reaction when I first heard about it was, you know, they're going to see what happens when you fuck with this.
I'll tell you, if the people in the Middle East think this is going to help their view, they're wrong. Yeah, you tell them. They're wrong. We're coming to get you in Baghdad. We're coming to get you in Afghanistan. We're coming to get you.
You know, in a real visceral, you know, when you're angry and in the car and someone cut, you know, that real just sort of, you know.
After Tim McVeigh and Terry Nichols had been arrested and charged, I frankly didn't even want trials for either one of them. I simply wanted them fried. That was the vengeance and the hate that I was living with.
My brother was killed, and I know who's responsible. The real reaction, or the only path they have at this moment, is to revenge. If you don't revenge for your brother being killed, then you are being a bad brother. You have no other choice.
There is no choice. They will not give you any choice to make anything else. All of them must pay the price and stand in front of the justice.
The trouble is that when we say justice, often we mean revenge. I believe in restorative justice, much more than retributive justice. Retributive justice asks the question, how can we punish the person who did that? Restorative justice asks the question, how can we restore the relationships that were broken?
When I'd close my Texaco station at night and go home, the first thing I'd do is make a drink. And if I drank enough, when I went to bed, I could go to sleep. It was the next day that I was paying for. And this self-medication just kept escalating.
This for me is one of the most difficult letters that I will ever have to write. My name is Robbie Damlin, and I'm the mother of David, who was killed by your son.
One thing that I remembered that I had suppressed, hadn't thought of for almost a year, was seeing Bill McVeigh, Tim's father, on television. And he had a deep pain in his eye that I recognized immediately because I was living that same pain. I was going to need to go tell that man that I truly cared how he felt and didn't blame him or his family for what his son had done.
After a year, I closed my office and joined the Parents Circle Families Forum. We are a group of Israeli and Palestinian families who have all lost an immediate family member in the conflict. We are looking for ways to create a dialogue with a long-term vision of reconciliation. I hope that you will show the letter to your son and that maybe in the future we can meet.
Myself and another small group of family members had the opportunity to meet with Zacharias Masali's mother. Zacharias Masali is the alleged 20th hijacker. I want to understand why someone chose to get involved in a group like that and to decide to want to kill people, innocent people. This just helps me deal with it.
When I knocked on his door, after I introduced myself, the first thing I said to him is, Bill, I understand you have a nice garden in your backyard. Well, this big guy's face lit up like he'd thrown a spotlight on him and didn't seem the least bit shy to me at all. And he said, yeah, would you like to see it? I said, I'd love to.
And we were waiting for her to arrive. And it was running a little late, and then we heard the doors open. This is an old university building, and you hear the doors open down at the end of the corridor. So the mother, who lost her son in the World Trade Center, said, I'm going to go down to meet them.
And as they came in, I saw Aisha looking frightened. And I just went over and embraced her. And she embraced me, and we cried.
And all of us spent about the first 10 minutes crying and hugging each other. There's no words.
And then she said, I don't know if my son is guilty or innocent. But I'm sorry for what happened to you. Those words demonstrated such a generosity of spirit, such an ability through her own suffering to feel for others, that it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life.
Bill had asked me, he said, Bud, can you cry? And I thought, why is he asking this question? And I said, well, yeah, Bill, I can, and usually quite easily. And he said, all of my adult life, I've been unable to cry. And he said, I've had a lot to cry about the last 3.5 years, and I just can't do it. Well, after this long silence ended at the kitchen table, Bill looked up at the wall and just very simply said, "That's Tim's high school graduation picture." And when he said it, this great big tear rolled out of his right eye.
The way that I finally understood why this was so helpful to me on a personal level is, one, she reminded me totally of my own mother. And seeing her cry totally reminded me of all the times I'd seen my mother cry after my brother was killed. And two, it just made it tangible and real to me. See what I'm saying? Here was the mother of someone who could have been involved in September 11th attacks, and it made it, I could deal with it in a human way.
When I was in jail in 1996, I observed a film about the Israeli, the Jewish Holocaust. It was the Schindler List. I cannot prevent myself to cry and feel sympathized with those people, in spite I know that they are Jewish. This film according to me, is the Jewish suffering all around the history. And I start to ask myself and to explain to myself why I see those Jews is very aggressive in the Palestinian territory. When some kid throws stone, they will bring more than 100 soldiers and close the village and start torture all of them because of this Holocaust.
Perhaps when I return to South Africa, my doorbell will go. Somebody will be there saying, "I'm the one. I'm the one. Will you forgive me?" And then forgiveness will be on the table. I might say to that person, "Excuse me, sir, do you still make letter bombs?" Of course, I will always need someone to assist me for the rest of my life. And of course, I'm sure you'll help pay for that person. Not as a condition of forgiveness, but as a form of reparation and restitution.
You know, it becomes a new terminology for feeling or talking. We're now going to have a dialogue and we'll all have hummus and chibukim, you know, and hug each other and be very nice. No. It's all complicated and mixed up. But I do know that it is a path that if we do not go on this path of seeking a way of living in dignity with each other, there'll just be endless families like mine. For what?
So I'm not 50 years old and still waking up every day full of rage and anger at Muslim extremists and my brother for not leaving the tower when these other people left and all these things. I have to find a way to be able to come to some peace.
I was able to feel in my heart that I had forgiven Tim McVeigh. When I was able to do that, I didn't release Tim McVeigh, I released myself.